Hello plant friends and welcome to this video. My name is Scott and on this channel it is my goal to grow an avocado tree from seed and document the process, and on the way we'll do some other plant related things. Now can you hear that? The rustling in the trees, the breeze in the air, that is the sound of autumn coming. Now there is a YouTube tag going around for plant tubers and that is the Spring Plant Tubers tag, but I live in Australia. It is currently autumn, or fall, and I'm going to do the tag anyway. But there's a little bit of a twist. I'm going to switch around the season. So if in the question there is winter, it's going to become summer. If there is autumn or fall, it's going to become spring. Spring, fall, summer, winter. You get the idea. Thank you very much to Pam from Pam's Pretty Plants for starting this tag. Let's get into it. Let's get right into it then, shall we? The first question is, have you started your autumn cleaning or repotting yet? The answer is no. Everything is still very much growing in my yard, and so we've had a fairly actually late summer. We've had some fairly warm days of nearly 30 degrees. Now we're halfway through March, so things are still growing. My tomatoes are still ripening, and so I'm not cleaning up the yard just yet. There are a lot of weeds that are doing really well, which I need to take care of very soon. My pumpkin is taking over my backyard. I'm pruning that very heavily. That's doing really well. So I haven't started cleaning up yet. And as for repotting, I have not repotted anything yet. There's a few things that I need to repot over the winter, including a few fruit trees. As they go into their dormant season, that's their best time to be repotted. And I have got a couple of avocados that I'll be repotting this autumn as well. This avocado, for example, is you're starting to see roots come out the bottom. It's been in this pot for about 2 years now, so it is due for a larger pot, and I'm very excited to be doing that. Question 2, do you stop fertilizing over the summer? And if so, have you started fertilizing again? Of course, I fertilize over the summer, but I also fertilize during the winter. Now, I have only really just started using fertilizer on my indoor plants, but I'm seeing some great results. So I was chatting with a few friends and they were just like, why aren't you doing this yet? And I said, I just haven't got around to it. So I'm seeing some changes there. Of course, I've been fertilizing all of my outdoor plants, ones that are in the ground, ones that are in their containers, and I'll continue doing that during the winter as well. Not from my natives though, they don't need fertilizer really. They're used to growing in Australia where the soil has no nutrients really, and so I'm not going to be fertilizing those. Over the winter as well, I take the opportunity to really recharge my soil, especially if I'm leaving a garden bed empty. That's a really great time to dig in a bunch of organic matter. That's when I'll get several bags of manure and I'll dig that into the soil to really work that in, and I'll also add a bunch of leaves, from the trees that have fallen, and just adding that organic material to really boost the nutrients in the soil. Question 3, what plants, if any, did you lose over the summer? Now, I have spoken about this on my channel, the tragedy that was one of the avocado trees that I purchased because I overwatered it and gave it root rot. I've learned my lessons. I know how to deal with root rot and I know how to prevent root rot. So I'm using much better soil. I'm not overwatering, and we're getting a lot better results now that I've learned those lessons. So it was an expensive lesson. This was not a cheap plant, but I've learned my lesson. We're not going to make that mistake again. The rest of my plants have actually done really, really well. Even though I was away during the summer for 2 weeks during our hottest part in January, just due to me giving my house sitter good instructions and also setting up the yard on an automatic watering system. I've made a video about that as well, and that'll be in the description below. Did you order plants in the mail over summer? And if so, how did they do? I have pretty well given up on shopping online for plants. I will try to visit a nursery as often as I can. It's much more fun, I think, hunting out different plants. Seeds I don't mind buying online, but they haven't started growing, so I don't have to worry about them being in transport. So I haven't ordered any plants. It was also really hot this summer, so I was a little bit worried. When we had weeks of 40-degree heat, it's not ideal to be shipping plants. They will perish in there. So I have not ordered any plants online. I'm a little bit hesitant to do so now. That being said, I would be keen to continue trying this at different times in the future. I think that there is a huge benefit, but my personal preference is to visit the place, and I really enjoy the thrill of the hunt. What's the next plant or plant-related item on your wish list that you'll be getting this autumn? Now, I don't really actually like having a wish list. There are plants which I have on my mind, but I don't like having that wish list more than 1 or 2 plants. So, of course, I would still love all of my pine. And that's really all. I have plans to buy an apricot over this winter, bare rooted, but the very next immediate purchase will be garlic bulbs. So I'm keen to plant garlic in my veggie patch once the potatoes have all been harvested, which I'm very close to harvesting all my potatoes, and they will be going in probably in the next fortnight before the end of March, so that I can harvest very early spring, hopefully, so that I can then plant my summer crop as well. And I want to get a lot. I've had a few goes at growing garlic in containers, and the harvest has never been really awesome. I've got a few bulbs, enough to last half a year for my garlic supplies, but I want to grow a significantly larger amount of garlic. So I'm going to be doing that very soon. That's my next plant purchase. Do you have any life-saving tricks or tips that helped your plants to survive the summer? Yes, I do, and I've spoken about this as well in a previous video, but I'll talk about it again now. I love to automate things and make things as simple as possible. I have hooked up pretty well every plant in my garden that requires regular watering to an automatic watering system. I've got an irrigation system that runs all the way around, and pretty well every plant is on its own individual dripper, which means that at the same time, whenever I set it, at the moment it's been doing daily, I'm about to switch that right back to every 2 days, possibly even every 3 days, depending on how much rain we're getting. And that has really saved the plants this summer. They have done super well. They've put out some great growth because they've had that continual supply of water every morning, and that's helped them survive the really hot days. The plants in small containers, which would dry out a lot faster on hot windy days, they haven't been phased at all because of that continual watering in the morning, getting that same amount of water, enough water to moisten the soil so that they can take that up. Not flushing it out, we're not losing any water to runoff or evaporation really, which has just been a really, really fantastic system. So I'm really glad I spent the time and money to set that up over the last year or so, because that's saving me a lot of time and money now in watering. Did you have any pest issues over the summer, and if so, how did you conquer them? Well, I have not yet conquered all of them. So I have discovered mealybugs on my houseplants, which is really frustrating. I've been attacking them a few times a week with rubbing alcohol, and they're getting under control, but they're still around. I've really cut down on the population, but I'm still keeping my eyes very sharply attuned to little white things on my leaves, and I'm attacking them as soon as I see them. Outside, I have had caterpillars and whitefly attacking my tomatoes and my pumpkins specifically, which is frustrating because it means that they're less productive. My beans have pretty well been shredded by a caterpillar, and I am seeing a lot of ugly looking leaves on pumpkins due to the whitefly, though the pumpkin is growing aggressively enough that it's going to be okay. At this stage, there's just so much foliage in my garden that's going to die off in the next 3 months that I'm just giving up with the whitefly for now, and over the winter I'm going to make sure they don't live on any of my other plants, they're not in any of my greenhouses, and we're going to really get on top of that for next summer. I just got a little bit lazy starting a new job that I didn't get round to spraying everything, and so there's the problem. Oh, another pest that I did have this summer though was actually possums. Now we've got big brush-tail possums that live in our neighbourhood, which is fine. They're native and we do not want to harm them, we don't wish them ill, but they have been attacking my sunflowers, especially when I planted them and they'd come about this far out of the ground. They just started sticking their heads up. They're nice and sweet, beautiful seedlings. That's a great time for a possum to jump off my fence and munch them. So to get around that, I just used a lot of coffee. So I have a friend who works in a cafe, and she was supplying me with coffee grounds. So use coffee grounds which don't harm the possum at all. They just give this unpleasant smell which they don't like, which saved my sunflowers. Now I've got sulfur-crested cockatoos coming in and eating them, making a huge mess, but I really don't mind them coming in and doing that. They're really lovely, fantastic birds. I don't consider them pests, and actually as they come and destroy the sunflower heads, they are spreading the seeds so that they self-seed for next year, which is fantastic. So that's something that I've worked around. I had a very late start with my sunflowers this year because of that, but we've got sunflowers. I can't complain too much. I love sunflowers. They're just so beautiful. Show us one plant that thrived all summer. Now, I have had a rhubarb, which came from my wife's grandmother, actually, from her crown that she's had for a very, very long time. We split it up, and it's been doing okay. We had it in smaller pots for a couple of years, and we got a few spears or stalks of rhubarb, but nothing really substantial. Like, we were able to do things with them, but not very much. So this year I actually acquired a bathtub, and I planted that out. I filled it with potting mix and manure, and I planted them in. I mulched it really heavily, and they have exploded. I've been really, really impressed with how my rhubarb has done, and it's just been a fantastic. We've harvested a lot. We've harvested pretty heavily. I'm getting pretty close to not harvesting anymore now, so that they can preserve energy for the winter. But that's been a plant that has done super well this summer, and I'm really happy about it. Another plant, and I know you only said one in the question, Pam, but my 47 avocado seeds, not all of them have started germinating yet, but they have done really well in their hothouse, which is just behind me here. And they're just growing really hard. I've needed to prune a lot. I'm going to do another video soon of me pruning a bunch of them, so keep your eyes out for that one. They've just grown really, really well, and we're going to have a lot of avocado trees to deal with. Show us one plant that you're most excited to see autumnal growth on. So most of the plants, they calm down over the autumn, but I have got a pumpkin vine which is doing really, really well. As I've said in this video already, I pruned it very hard to control it. It would take over my backyard very, very happily if I hadn't done that. He's still got heaps of flowers on it, and there's lots of little pumpkins, some pumpkins that are almost ready to harvest actually, so I'm looking forward to be harvesting those over the next couple of months as it cools down. It's fantastic to produce your own food, and I've really enjoyed doing that. I love having an outdoor garden to be able to do that, and that's part of the goal with growing these avocados, that one day I'd love to be able to eat their fruit. So thank you very much, Pam, for coming up with this tag. It was a little bit of fun to change things around to fit my own situation. Thank you very much for joining me in this video. I hope that you have enjoyed hanging out with me here in my backyard. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to let me know by giving this video a like. If you had anything that you'd like to tell me, please put it in the comments below. You may also find me on Instagram at Scott Grows an Avocado Tree. Make sure you subscribe to Scott Grows an Avocado Tree so as to not miss any avocado or gardening updates, and I will see you in my next video.
Scott grows an avocado tree. Scott grows an avocado tree. Scott grows an avocado tree. Scott grows an avocado tree.
There's a wasp there.